Hello and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. Tonight we will be talking about the significant OIC summit. Of course, this was conducted in Doha, and it was an emergency Arab-Islamic summit. In today's program, we will be talking about different dimensions, and it was important in the fact that 50 countries participated in this particular summit. And when we look at the stance of Pakistan's Prime Minister Mr. Shehbaz Sharif has called for a task force to counter Israeli aggression and even urged for the suspension of Israel's UN membership. When we look at, of course, the backdrop of this summit, it was in the light of last week's Israel's aggression on Qatar. In today's program, we will be talking about the significance of this gathering and, of course, how these countries are going to be implementing the actions that are coming out of this summit. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza. Welcome to the program. We're also joined online by former Ambassador Dr. Jamil Khan. Welcome to the program. And we're also joined by Syed Basim Raza. Welcome to the program. Dr. Ali Hamza, of course, let me start with you. When we look at the significance of this summit, leaders from nearly 50 countries under the OIC umbrella have gathered for this summit. How do you see this rather unexpected unity amongst Arab as well as Muslim countries in the light of the ongoing crises that we have been witnessing in the Middle East post October 7th, 2023?
Thank you for having me, Maryam. As you questioned that how do I see this gathering of 50 Muslim majority countries in Qatar, definitely it symbolizes unity, but as it has been discussed thoroughly during the summit that only condemnation would not work. You have to take some practical steps. Now, in light of Israel's attack to Qatar, this summit has been called. But in fact, OIC, a body, international body that exists, that comes together against all aggression done to any Muslim country, like it's been happening for 1.5 years, Israeli aggression on Palestine. So what has happened to Iraq, Lebanon, even Afghanistan? So such gathering, such unity symbolizes very nicely. It portrays a nice image. But is it going to stick or stay till the condemnation? Or are they going to really unite and take some practical step to stop aggression, Israeli aggression, and aggression of any other country that determines fate of other nations? I think this will go on.
Of course, this will go on, but at the same time, Dr. Hamza, I want your opinion on the fact that Qatar has acted as a mediator since the beginning of this Israel's aggression on Raza, and now Israel has, of course, attacked on Qatar directly. How significant was this step, considering the role of Qatar, who has historically acted as a neutral peace broker?
Very pertinent question. Qatar has emerged as a hub for soft diplomacy. You remember the FIFA World Cup 2022, that was a sports diplomacy. And even Qatar has played a very vital and significant role in solving the Afghanistan issue. So when there is a country that comes up as a hub for diplomacy dialogue, so attacking that country means that Israel's attack is not on Qatar, it's on the soft diplomacy. Israel's attack is on the humanitarian laws by Geneva Convention. Israel's attack signifies the attack on sensibility. So the question is, are we going to go with this precedent, or are we going to say no to this precedent? So definitely the attack on Qatar is not attack on one country or just getting into the sovereignty of one country. It's an attack on the global peace.
Right. A very pertinent and significant point raised by you, and I'll be circling back to that. But before moving into that, Hamza, tell me about the timing of this attack and aggression by Israel. When Israel attacked on Qatar last Tuesday, of course, 5 Hamas members were killed, including, of course, Qatari officials as well. And this was at the time when negotiators were weighing a US truce proposal. How do you interpret the timing? Was it deliberately designed to sabotage the mediation efforts?
It is actually an effort by Israel to sabotage overall peace, the global and regional peace. Now, Maryam, we need to understand that when we look at the Russian attack on Ukraine, we see the world, the Western and the developed world came out with yell and cry, with hue and cry. But when it happened to Qatar, we just felt silence. Why that double standard? So when you said about timing, there is another aspect we need to look into, that why US did not speak against Israel attack as it, I mean the US and the European Union and Western world was against Russia. Now here we need to understand that the Senator of United States, Rubio, just visited Netanyahu today.
Yes.
And you must have seen that the tone and the facial expression Rubio presented was something like, oh friend, why did you do that? You shouldn't have been done that. It wasn't like that, why did you break the peace of the country, and why there was a truce happening, the peace truce was happening, and why did you sabotage that? The expression, the facial expression, and even the statements by the US do not comply with that requirement and the desire of the Muslim majority countries.
Of course, that does not reflect the desire of the Muslim countries, and we did witness that in today's summit as well. I'll be coming back to that, but Israel has justified its strike as necessary to remove people unwilling to deal. But UN Human Rights Council and many states called it violation of sovereignty. How does this clash, in your opinion, as narrative that are reshaping global perceptions of the negotiations towards peace?
When we say that Israel has a reason to attack, so Russia had a reason to attack. Every aggression country that aggresses on this territory of others had some reasons. So it's not about having a reason, it's about how justified the reason is. We are talking about Qatar. So Qatar was not a part of any war. Qatar played its role to reconcile any war situations and try to bring both parties on one table so the problem gets solved. So attacking Qatar is actually breaking the humanitarian laws. And one more thing, Maryam, I would like you to highlight is today is 15th September. That is called International Democracy Day.
Yes.
So it is a democracy day. So what happened? In Spain, the cycling rally was started by the Spanish people in favor of the Palestinian, and the voice was raised against Israel. So what happened? Where was the democracy? Why those agitators, so-called, who were speaking in favor of the Palestinian and who were Spanish people, why their demands were not met? Where is the democracy? So I can give you many other examples, and the world has seen that the public, the people, the Western people have come out to the roads in the favor of Palestine, but democracy has not been respected as it should have been done.
Right, right. Democracy has not been respected. Now I want to, of course, include Dr. Jamil Khan into the discussion. Dr. Jamil, when we look at this aggression by Israel, and of course, like Dr. Hamza alluded to earlier, the meeting of Marco Rubio and his visit. What's your take on this, especially when we look at the whole situation in the context of Qatar being an important ally of US in the Gulf and also host to Al Udeid Air Base, and it's been attacked by Israel now. How dangerous, in your opinion, is this precedent for other Gulf countries?
No, obviously it's quite dangerous because in last about couple of months, Israel have been able to violate all the international laws, and it has attacked almost seven countries, mostly all of them Muslim countries. So Qatar, of course, came as a surprise because Qatar is an important member of GCC, and Qatar has always been mediating in various in multiple disputes of the world. May it be Muslim Brotherhood, may it be Iran matter, the Qatar and Oman. They were the main pivotal countries. They were able to really try to resolve that. Also, before Israel struck on Iran, just 2 days before they could reach that entire conclusion of the agreement. So this time also, Hamas, they were called by Qatari people for negotiation on whose behest? It was basically United Nations proposal for the peace approved by the Israel, and after that, Qatari Prime Minister and Qatari authorities, they were mediating, like they've been mediating for Taliban, like they've been mediating for others. So they were mediating, and Qatari Prime Minister on record says that we were very close, and Hamas had almost agreed to the proposal, or getting agreed to the proposal, and just 1 day prior to that, what does it mean? It means that Israel has never been interested that there should be a settlement, there should be a peace, because Israel has its greater plan, and that greater plan, if we go back into the history, that was conceived by once the Zionism foundation was established in 1897 in Switzerland. At that time, they decided there would be a greater Israel, there would be a Israeli state carved out in Palestine. So all what they decided, they're just trying to implement that. And no one less than Netanyahu himself has shown the map to the world what is greater Israel is. So that means it's true that they were never serious about the settlement, about the peace. It was just getting time. And even today, while the summit was in progress, and such an important, such a significant summit, where the body language of the leaders of the Islamic world, the Arab League, the GCC, and the OIC, it was different this time. The tone was different, and the language was different. Although many of us we were expecting, I was not, but many of us we were expecting that there would be some the final resolution which would indicate immediate implementation in concrete steps, such as boycotting, such as closing the airspace, such as delinking those 5 countries who have their diplomatic relations with Israel. They would probably break their different diplomatic relations, but none of them had happened. One thing good which has happened today, and really very, I would say, marvelous thing, that the unity what I have seen now, there have been a lot of differences between these countries of this bloc. But today, Egypt, which has its peace agreement with Israel, and they have called, the president of Egypt has called Israel as the enemy today. And likewise, all the head of the states and foreign ministers who are representing head of states, they had very strong wordings. But most of them were referring to
Let me
the
circling back to that important and of course strong wording that was used by the leaders present in the summit, but let me include Basim, Raza into the discussion. Basim, when we look at this of course significant summit, Qatari Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani said Israel assassinated negotiators to derail talks. Do you see this as part of a larger Israeli strategy to prevent any peace processes from gaining ground, like Dr. Jamil and Dr. Hamza earlier alluded to?
Okay, thank you so very much for having me. The point actually is that this has been happening since a very long time. And the Arab states, the way they reacted to the previous attacks, it actually motivated this Israeli apartheid regime to conduct more attacks. The same thing happened in case of Iran. All these states, they provided the much necessary airspace to the Israeli aggressors. So this has been continuing for a very long time. There was previously when we were discussing Palestine, I talked about it that we need some concrete sanctions on Israel. This is now a rogue state, and don't like apologies for my words, but this is like a rabid dog which has to be put down, and there has to be something substantial in this case. I wholeheartedly believe and I wholeheartedly pray that this summit produces some positive results, but there is a need of some coercion, some coercive diplomacy at least, because this has gotten extremely out of hand. This is a state that has attacked, as Dr. Jamil just said, 7 nations, 7 sovereign states, and it is continuing. There has to be something done in this specific case. And the world leaders, at least the global leaders from the Arab states or the global south, they have to somewhat come on a singular page and address this very crucial issue, because the world is delving into the self-help system. The world is delving into the anarchic order again, and this should not happen, at least not on the watch of such pragmatic sort of leaders. One state, one rogue state, is putting every single state in the Middle Eastern region at risk. And this should not happen, at least not on the watch of such leaders.
Course, Israel's aggression now moving on to a sovereign state which has acted as a neutral mediator and has been a close ally of US in the Gulf region. Do you think this can potentially spill over into a wider war or regional confrontations?
Maryam, as Dr. Jamil just mentioned, that it means the Israel and Western powers are not serious about bringing peace into the region. Somehow it makes sense that it's kind of a diversion. I mean, diversion is that Israel has decided to clean Palestine from the Palestinian and have the Gaza in their own way, and that's a diversion. The Qatar attack was a diversion. But if I just continue with Mr. Basim's thing, he said that the tone was okay, fine, but it's been happening since long, but no practical steps been taken. So the question has to be, what steps should be taken? So I think the first step that has just begun is the political pressure or diplomatic pressure. So I think this summit has a tone of a diplomatic pressure, but will this pressure translate into some sanctions, or will United Nations will become another league of nations that is useless and cannot exercise its authority, that does not benefit the Western states? Secondly, beside the diplomatic pressure, one another angle I think Muslim majority countries have to look into. Number one, there are 50 countries present in the Islamic Summit, and if you look into the population size of these 50 Muslim countries, you can figure it out. It's kind of a half of the world there. So if we just look into the population of this Muslim majority with their allies like Russia and China and SCO, so look the power we have, and we do not know how to use this trump card. Definitely I'm not talking about the Trump president, I'm talking about the card that has to be played, the population card, and that takes us to the trade leverage. The trade leverage is that in 1973 we had the oil embargo that unsettled the Western countries. So why not today we can leverage the trade as well?
Right, right. Why not today? And Dr. Jamil, what's your take on this first? And also, let's talk about Pakistan's response to it as far as the actions regarding aggressor Israel is concerned. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called the strike a flagrant violation of sovereignty and demanded a suspension of Israel's UN membership. How realistic, in your opinion, is such a step, given the current UN Security Council balance of power that we have been witnessing for more than 2 years now?
Well, there has been examples in the world where the membership of the member countries have been suspended because of the violations of international law. And here we are, where Israel has been violating international law consistently and continuingly. So it's a fit case, and I think our Prime Minister very rightly has pointed it out. But in the joint statement, in fact, that was quite encouraging, I would say. in a way, although I was expecting that there would be some concrete steps and which is given within the charter of the OIC, within the charter of the GCC, those points are already given, and I'm going to really refer to those articles of the charter in a while. But then those concrete actions have not been really, the steps have not been taken. But there has been now a path which has been determined that next step perhaps is going to be those concrete action. And what are those? One, that OIC charter I just referred, para number seven of the OIC Charter very clearly stipulates that the collective defense, the security and the defense, the collaboration of all the member states, that was one. Second, in para number 16 of the preamble and the article 18 of the OIC. So all these articles are there. The charter is there, and the strength of these charter are that these regional organizations such as OIC, GCC, Arab League, they are formed under Chapter 8 of the United Nations Charter. So that is within the national legal framework, and any step they take, that would be legal. Now, I was referring to the joint statement, and I really noted it very keenly that point number 9, it says that now the GCC would have its own architect of the defense mechanism. And on the side, they had the military leadership of the GCC country who were deliberating it, how to do it, and the mechanism of that. You raised a question about what Pakistan stand was. Prime Minister, we have already discussed what statement he had given. Our Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, Mr. Dar, he yesterday had made a very clear statement while engaging with the media. He said, without a clear roadmap today, probably it will be not quite appropriate. And then he also mentioned that Pakistan, if there is a security mechanism, security architect of the OIC or the member states, maybe now in this case, the GCC has mentioned that they are going to have a collective security architect in the mechanism. So we at Pakistan, represented by our Deputy Prime Minister, has already mentioned it yesterday that the Pakistan would be a part of security force. And Pakistan, by the way, historically been making contribution towards towards the strengthening of the armed forces of Gulf countries. If we recall, in 1978, we had sent a task force, and that task force was stationed. There was almost a division of Pakistan Army. They were stationed there in Saudi Arabia through an agreement. And likewise, we are the one we trained UAE Navy, UAE Army initially, and later on they started having the Western countries, including the United States. Now they are really seriously with this article, the joint statement point number 9, which I just referred. That seems that this time they are quite serious to really think about it, because they have now realized that if a country, a Gulf state country, for the first time it has been attacked, and that country who is so collaborative with the West, who's been pivotal, who's been playing a pivotal role for the peace.
Right, rightly pointed out. I'll be coming back to you, Dr. Jamil. Let me bring in Basim into the discussion. Basim, what's your take on this, especially when we talk about this important point that has been raised by Dr. Jamil about the Arab-Islamic security force? Do you see it happening in the coming days, as hinted by Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar, as well as Defense Minister Khwaja Asif?
Okay, when we talk about Pakistan, Pakistan has promoted a very pragmatic sort of a foreign policy in case of conflicts. Particularly, and in parallel to that pragmatism, Pakistan actually shows assertion as well. When we see what happened with India in our crisis, we saw that Pakistan asserts itself as a very strong force. Similarly, that is exactly what we need in case of these Arab states. The task force that we're talking about, it needs to be something that is entirely between these Arab nations. It shouldn't have any external influence on it. we have seen consistently that whenever there is a talk of mediation, whether it's between Iran and United States, whether it's between Hamas and United States, the Israelis, they attack right there and then. The Iranians, they were about to have a talk with the United States. Israelis, they attacked. Hamas leaders, they were about to have a talk with, like the United Nations. The Israelis, they attacked. This has to be stopped. And this is not going to go away with, chants of diplomacy. This is not going to go away with something which is, diplomatic pressure. No, this is not going to go away. We've seen that. We've seen that in case of Palestine. Palestine has delved into a huge catastrophe right now, and the diplomatic pressure couldn't do anything about it. What we need right now is at least some coercive diplomacy, some sanctions, some uh, proper sort of coercive pressure on the state, because if as I said, previously about the self-help system, if the Israeli state it believes that the state that they're going to target is not able to defend themselves, they're going to do that, and we've seen that. So the Arab states, they need to be together. They need to come together to a one singular framework of security that can actually defend them against this very emerging threat, which is Israel.
Right, right. And when we talk about that, and when you talk about the coercive diplomacy that is needed at this point in time, and keeping in mind Netanyahu's aggressive policies, permanent, do you think that these policies of Netanyahu are going to be permanently dismantling the idea of Arab-Israel coexistence that was envisioned in 2002 Arab Peace Initiative?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part of the question again, please?
So, Basim, you of course talked about the coercive diplomacy that is needed at this point in time. And when we look at the aggressive policies of Netanyahu, do you think that, keeping in mind those, of course, policies, do you still see an Arab-Israel peaceful coexistence that was envisioned in Arab Peace Initiative 2002?
Okay, when we talk about a peaceful Arab-Israel coexistence, I don't see that as long as the Netanyahu regime, this bloodthirsty regime, is in power in Israel. There has to be something. I'm very disappointed in the Israeli society and the public reaction to the Netanyahu regime, despite the fact that every single human being very well understands what this regime is pushing for. Um, the only thing, whether it's a domestic pressure, or whether it's an external intervention, this regime has to go in order to develop some sort of, peaceful coexistence between the Israeli state and the Arab states as well. Because we've seen this, there is no pushing back for this Netanyahu regime at all. We see one entirely different sort of a rhetoric from the United States. And then the Netanyahu regime, it acts like an entirely rogue state, which doesn't even listen to the United States. So whatever is going on right now is the utmost need of the time is to oust this regime, whether it happens by the domestic pressure, whether it happens by some external intervention. The Netanyahu regime has to go for achieving a long-lasting peace in Middle East.
Right. And Dr. Jamil, when we talk about Palestinian and Arab position, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is also in Doha, and he joined calls for accountability of Israel. How might, in your opinion, this summit push for Palestinian statehood at the UN General Assembly?
Well, UN General Assembly, already there are about 143
Yes.
countries, they have recognized Palestine. And it has not really made much difference because the recognizing is one part, unless the veto countries, they support that. Because what happens is the recognition or making a member in United Nations General Assembly, it has to really go, finally it has to be approved by the Security Council. And if we recall, it was about 6 months ago or so, the resolution was moved in the Security Council, and it was at the very agenda level discussion, it was declined, and the veto countries, particularly the United States, had said that we will veto it. So it could not really even be presented for the resolutions. So the state recognition is a moral pressure, and the people, the floods of people all around in the Western countries, more than the Islamic countries or the countries, the member countries of OIC. You can see in the Western countries how people are protesting. Even the flotilla, there are about more than 50 ships and more than 40 countries represented there. They are heading towards Gaza, although they would they have already been, there was a drone attack on it, and Israel would really take them on once they are further close to Gaza. But at least symbolically, they are showing to the entire world, and they are from different countries. So what I'm saying is that General Assembly, 193 countries, 3 days ago, the resolution which was moved, 140 countries, they overwhelmingly voted for the recognition, and they recognized Palestine. The New York Accord, which was moved by France and the Saudi Arabia. And then only 12 countries, they abstained, and 10 countries were opposed, along with Israel and the US. But does it make much difference? Practically, in terms of taking concrete steps? No. Yes, moral pressure is one part, but who would implement the international law? Who would ask the Israel to Israel is
Of
a
course, the
member of
basic
the
question of the existence of UN General Assembly and UN Security Council. Thank you very much, Dr. Jamil Khan, for joining us in today's discussion and for your valuable input. Thank you very much, Syed, Basim, Raza, for joining us for today's discussion. Dr. Hamza, of course, when we talk about this emergency Arab-Islamic summit, how do you think about it in the context of putting Palestinian cause at the center of Arab agenda, rather Arab-Islamic centrality after years of isolation by these countries?
I think by chance or by luck or by fortune, now the Palestinian issue has become the central issue after a long. But again, the real question is what things to be done. As Dr. Jamil was saying and our other fellow was saying, that we have to put sanctions on Israel and things like that. Theoretically, it sounds pretty good. Okay, there are sanctions available in the UN Charter, but who is going to exercise those sanctions? That's the first question. The second point I would like to reiterate. We need to understand that why Israel is interested to take over entire Gaza and take Palestinian out of that land. It's not the religious reason. It's all about business. So Israel is actually it's the presence of the West in the Gulf or in the Asia. So they want to control geographical locations because that's a strategic location in terms of business and in other terms. So how we have to respond back? We have to respond back through trade levers. What are the trade levers? Qatar, let's talk about Qatar, the one of the biggest LNG exporter. Let's talk about the Gulf state, biggest oil exporters. Let's get to the, Pakistan and Afghanistan. We have the wonderful mineral deposits. So we are rich in all those things. So we have to use trade levers to pressurize West or UN or US to put sanctions over Israel.
Right.
Without that, it's never going to happen. It will remain theoretical as it is.
Right. But Dr. Hamza, what kinds of steps are needed in that regard, especially when we talk about these emerging threats in the context of Israel's recent aggression to actually protect Gulf pipelines and, like you alluded to, the LNG shipping routes as well?
So first of all, the first step, as I understand, is you have to now re-decide on friends and foes. So let's have new alliances. Now, the emerging East, we have to respect that now. The emerging East includes, a few days ago, there was SCO, and that was a symbolic portrayal of rising East. So that should be the first step, that we have to decide the friends and foes. Now, we have to rethink about it. So when we have new friends, those would definitely help us, not in terms of trade only, but in terms of protecting the lines you're talking about, protecting the routes you're talking about. So that'll be a great protection. So I think all Muslim majority countries not only think of themselves, 50 countries, but also look into the new friends, and that's the rising East.
Right, that's the rising East, and of course all these countries, 50 plus countries, can do much more to protect not only people of Gaza, but join hands to protect Islamic world as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza, for joining us in today's discussion and for your valuable input. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.